Okay, I'm being sarcastic here, but you really should talk to your physician when it comes to any of the products at InfoWarsLife.com. 20% off right now. You can also call toll-free, ask about any specials, any other deals, 888-253-3139. Because there's a lot of specials I don't have time to get into. The Vitamin Mineral Fusion is back in stock as well. Okay, I want to go to Mark and Tony and Bobby and Cindy and Dean and everybody else is patiently holding. I want to cover what the Pope said again. I want to hit some of these latest articles. But first, I wanted to give Joe Biggs a few minutes, and he'll ride shotgun with us for the rest of the hour. Then I'll go into the next hour with your calls as well. As a combat vet, again, who didn't ask to have Rolling Stone and Esquire embedded with you in 3 different tours, but you were a combat unit, so that's what Hastings wanted to be part of. And you know, he was there witnessing a lot of the heavy combat you actually saw. You've described to me coming back from Brussels, coming back from Paris, coming back from London, that you felt more hated and in more danger than when you were in combat for over 3 years and were blown up in 2 armored vehicles, hit with shrapnel, shot, you name it. Walk through that yourself and these no-go zones, because I have a stack of news here now where they can't cover it up. The radical Muslims, and these are poor, working-class Muslims from Stone Age areas like Afghanistan, poor areas of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, people that invaded Syria. I mean, these are pretty bloodthirsty folks. I mean, is that why? Because I've talked to a lot of troops say a lot of the Iraqis are really nice people. I've got friends that are Iraqi. I've talked to folks who say a lot of the Afghans are even nice people. They're either bad or they're good. It seems like in the West, mixed with liberalism and hate of the West, it's created a mutated culture of just absolute, now the culture is hating the West, hating Christians, hating white people. Is that accurate? And why do you say it's worse in Europe than in combat zones?
You know, it's interesting. You know, you read these reports, and it's easy as an American to sit here and look at all these reports and say that this stuff's breaking, you know, happening over in Europe. But to actually go there, you know, myself and Michael Zimmerman flew there the day after the attack happened in Paris
and Watson
Theater, and Watson met us from London. And you get out there and you're walking up and down the streets and you're talking to people, and all you see are hijabs everywhere. You see everyone in the full, you know, Arabic garb walking up and down the street, mean mugging you, looking at you, and you're like, wow, like it is getting a lot more. There's definitely a big change going on.
See, I'm from Texas. Somebody mean mugs me enough. I've learned to not talk back, but if they do it enough, I'm going to say, what's your problem?
But, you know, then I was part of the raid in Saint-Denis, which is a suburb of Paris in the northwestern part, I believe, of Paris. And Michael Zimmerman and I show up there, and this is when they were actually going through home to home looking for some of the attackers. And that looked like little Iraq. Saint-Denis looked like little Iraq. All the stores were in Arabic. That entire area were Arab men from ages, you know, I would say like 17 to...
Because the women aren't allowed out on the street.
Yeah, and they were everywhere, and they're all sitting there with their arms crossed as the police are going door to door, just kind of like with a smirk on their face, like like looking like, oh yeah, like you're not going to find them, you know, or like, hey, we're not going to say anything. And that was the atmosphere there. But then we go over...
You were first on the scene when they killed one of them.
Yes, I snuck past the police, and I kept running through corridors on, and Michael was right behind me with his camera, and I was like, dude, we got to find a spot. We can find an area where we can get past
See, you guys, just you running through corridors, you guys didn't tape that. You got it once you got there and got the dead body. And that's better than Discovery Channel. You guys got to tape everything. That's so exciting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we get out there, but then we end up going over to Molenbeek. So we take a train from Paris over into Brussels, Belgium, Paul Joseph Watson and I and Michael Zimmerman. And that in itself, that train ride from Paris over to there is scary. The seats are so high, you can't tell who's walking up through, you know, from car to car. You don't know who's about to come over, and that's why that is a huge security threat as well. But then you get to these areas, and all the people that are in the, like, TSA areas, they're all Arabic. They all look like hardened guys who are just like when you walk by, they're looking at you, just mean mugging you the entire time. And here you are, you're walking through, there's no passport needed, no one's checking any of your bags. You get into Brussels and you're walking around and they're like, oh, you know, why are you here? You know, you know, they're talking to you. And they're asking me why I'm there. And they're sitting here.
Let's be clear. Muslims with women wearing headdresses, and the men are telling you, get out of here, you're not welcome.
Yeah, so we actually walked, I think it was a 3-mile walk or something like that, 2-mile walk. We get over into Molenbeek from that area where we're at. And the entire time, you start going from regular little neighborhoods, and it progresses block to block to where it gets back to where you look like you're at a bazaar in Ashraf, Iraq, or in, you know, Kandahar, Afghanistan. And the buildings go from apartment complexes to a little bit more like shanties to a little bit more like just broken down. And then you start seeing Arabic writing everywhere. and the guys are running, like going up and down the streets in the cars looking, and we're filming outside of the building where they knew that one of the known attackers were, the so-called mastermind of the Paris attack was, and they had just did a raid the day before. And, you know, we're going out there talking about how this is a no-go zone. And we're starting to get hit the day after the report going, oh, there were reporters there yesterday. You know, there was police. Yeah, there was tons of police and SWAT.
I was telling you, always get in there.
Yeah, we went there by ourselves. We had no security detail. We had no SWAT team. We had no military. There was no people there.
By the way, the police don't even go in that area now.
No, they only went there because they were in mass numbers. They went there in a large amount, like a convoy of people in that area, set up a perimeter, and then conducted their sweep of that area. We went there, 3 white guys sticking out like white on rice in a paper.
And were you loved? Were you loved?
Yeah, I was loved. They were looking at us, screaming at us, tell us to get out of here. And it got to a point where so creepy, I grabbed the 2 of them. I was like, hey, let's just go into this building really quick. Let's just get out of here and let this cool by, because this car kept going by. We go and open the door, and right as Paul's pushing the door, his hand shoots in front of him, grabs the door. And I can see inside, and it looked like...
Man, I wish you'd have got this on tape.
I saw a table of like 5 or 6 Arab dudes. They're sitting there, and the guy goes, no, you cannot be here. And then shut the door, and we're like, all right, let's just get the hell out of here. Let's go.
So it's like when C-3PO in the Cloud City goes in, he goes, oh, no, stormtroopers, no, I'll go. Anyways, getting serious here. I'm glad you guys got out of there. But why would the West want to do this? I want to go to break and come back with calls and play some clips. But first, Joe, think about this. Our borders are open. They're bringing millions of these people in. They're not vetting them. They're not even checking passports. That's in mainstream news, you know, at these airports when these people come in. And meanwhile, the TSA wants to grope our genitals, put us in naked body scanners, and has internal checkpoints and 4-hour lines from Atlanta to Phoenix to Chicago. I'm told there's 2-hour lines now in Austin. I mean, that's all about dominating us, all about making us submit to this tyranny in the name of stopping Islamic terror. But then meanwhile, you look at Europe, literally, it's like 80% of the security people are Muslims.
I'm flying to Louisville tomorrow. I just got a text earlier that says to be at the Austin airport 2 to 3 hours early. And then I got an update from Atlanta saying if you're driving in for a flight, you need to be there 4 hours early. That's ridiculous.
That's incredible. And it gets worse because, again, they're saying it's Muslims inside the airport security they believe are the ones putting bombs on the Russian plane last Halloween. And I think that's probably what happened here. So literally the jihadists run the security in their beekeeper suits.
I mean, we already know that they're there in Paris. I mean, in Saint Denis, like I just said. So there's no telling how many employees.
But think how upside down this is. The folks in beekeeper suits and men staring at you like they want to kill you run everything. We bring them in, they attack us, and then they get to run security.
I just think you're a racist.
This is the upside down fruitcake land. Look at these articles on Infowars.com. Pakistan man arrested at Texas border, lied to federal agents after his capture. He'll probably be made president. Another video, watch, quote, you're a German, you're nothing. Migrant filmed assaulting and bullying German teen. Next time I'm going to bloody your eye, I will stab it out if I feel like it. Here's another one. Migrants burned down a refugee welcome center in Sicily, on a Sicily island. Tunisian migrants set fire to the main pavilion and the refugee welcome center Tuesday night, causing severe damage after learning they would be repatriated to their home country. So, again, and now they have the EU trying to order these countries €250,000 fine if they don't let them in. And then it gets worse. When we come back, and we're going to do your phone calls, Pope Francis, I have this relinked to the top of Infowars.com. Pope Francis likens Jesus to ISIS, says Muslim migrants must breed with Europeans. Francis claims ISIS similar to Jesus, sending his disciples to all nations. He goes on to say, close quote, he dreads hearing about the Christian roots of Europe because to him, they take on a colonialist overtones. And then he called upon European nations to integrate Muslim migrants into the continent and to get rid of their European heritage.
I liken him to Satan.
I mean, this guy is literally a horrible, communist, filthy dirtbag. I mean, I'm sorry, folks. We'll be right back. I started reading when I was about 7 years old, Time Life history books that my dad would just buy. My dad wouldn't buy me a new fancy toy if I wanted it. He'd make me always do chores to get anything until I was about 14 or so. Then he spoiled me a little bit, got me a car when I was 16. Well, helped me pay for it. But if I was watching TV and saw those Time Life book encyclopedia ads, my dad loved encyclopedias. We just had, rooms full of nothing but books. And I'd say, I want those World War II encyclopedias. Boom, buy them. new one would come every month. I'd say, I want those World War I encyclopedias. Boom, buy them. I want those Civil War encyclopedias. Boom, buy them. I want those Revolutionary War encyclopedias. Boom, buy them. I want those occult Time Life books, encyclopedia. Boom, buy them. Until, I actually got some of those back in my office still, the World War II ones, and I would read every page of them. They were full of text and photos and a lot of stuff you've never seen on History Channel because it was just, to photos. And I probably read, I'm not exaggerating, by the time I was about 12 and quit reading them, then I got into girls, I probably read 10 different encyclopedia sets, the whole things, because I wasn't allowed to watch TV until my mom put the news on at 6 if I was home. She'd say, go outside. And so what I'm saying is, I've got a history lesson, okay? I really know what I'm talking about. And then I read a lot of history books after that. When I got back into them when I was about 16 or 17, there was a period, about 12 to 16, that there was one thing I was into. But what I'm getting at is I know what I'm talking about. And you look at history. I know you see it too. Folks are smart out there. You know history. But for folks that don't know history, they have no idea. We are being set up. There's no debating. There's no discussion. It's happening. Now, I'm going to start the next hour to give everybody plenty of time and go to your calls. Go to your calls then. For all the folks that are patiently holding. If you guys take that screen down, I can actually get to the calls. Thank you. We're going to go to Dean and Cindy and Mark and Dante and Tony and many, many others. But I wanted to spend a few minutes on this Pope thing. I'm not a Catholic basher. I'm not Catholic. I come from a Protestant background. But at the same time, a lot of my friends are Catholic. They're great people. I turn around, half the time and somebody fighting tyranny is a Catholic. Good people in my experience. So I never got into Catholic bashing. But, man, this guy, he's not a Catholic, and he just literally sounds like Mao Zedong married Bill Clinton and had a baby, with Hillary or something. I mean, it's so horrible. But he goes even further, likening Jesus to ISIS and says Muslims must breed with Europeans. This article's up on Infowars.com. He claims ISIS similar to Jesus sending his disciples to all nations. Yeah, that is so blasphemous. Sounds like something, out of like a Linda Blair. The terrorists are like Jesus killing their mothers in hell. I mean, Joe Biggs, what do you make? These are actual quotes in a major French newspaper. What do you think he's trying to do here?
I don't know. I just know that that's what Trudeau is going to be like from Canada when he gets older. That's what I'm worried about. I mean, that guy's out there in left field as well. I mean, the Pope is out of control. When you say
he says open the borders, but he's got 200-foot walls.
But he's sitting there telling us that, if you insult Islam, that's bad. If you don't take these people in, that's bad.
Well, they're cutting Catholic priest heads off all over the Middle East.
I mean, how many refugees has he taken in? And then you're going to sit here and liken Jesus to ISIS? I mean, you're contradicting yourself. You're sitting here going after people because they're not being tolerant of radical Islam, or they're not being tolerant of all Muslims because they might be scared that a bad one can
Jesus was tolerant. Jesus is the opposite of Al-Qaeda, ISIS. The Pope is like an abomination. He is the most blaspheming. Can you believe the Pope is actually saying that Christ is like ISIS?
I never thought I would say this, but I actually think he could be worse than Hillary Clinton.
Did you see that headline? ISIS crucifies Catholic priest on Good Friday.
And the Pope then gets up and says, that's okay. That's ridiculous.
He is a sick, sick, evil man. And notice he says, Europe, you must open up more like they're bad. 5 million's not enough, but this dirtbag lives behind. We can cue up the footage. We have footage we shot last year in Rome. He is behind 200-foot walls and armed guards. Infowars.com. We'll be back. Don't forget, 20% off on X2. Now's the time to try the good halogen and learn the secret. Infowarslife.com. You did an 18-minute interview last night that aired on the Nightly News with a decorated Navy SEAL exposing how they're sabotaging the organizations within. A lot of stuff that's happening overseas as well. You describe basically what they're turning special forces into. You're going to leave us here at the break. We're going to calls right now, Joe. But you're going to be back, I guess, at about 2:24 with Anthony introducing this coming up today. We're going to air that because it's so important. These are really news-making interviews. You were talking during the break about basically what he gets into.
So this is what's going on. We have a sabotage of our military taking place right now, and it's been slowly happening in small increments. You've got the high heels, you've got to walk in, women's shoes, and you degrade these soldiers. Then you start bringing in women without combat experience and put them in leadership roles to lead elite soldiers. And then you have leadership that are leaning so far left and they're so politically correct that they're dropping standards in the